This is Larry Zbyszko, and I recommend listening to InYourHeadOnline.com.
All right, and we're back. Welcome to In Your Head Wrestling Radio. I am the internet icon, handsome Jackie Jones, along with my right-hand man and the enforcer of the Headyverse.
1-inch biceps, the power goat. Bah! How about that? Yeah.
Yeah. And joining us tonight, he may be wondering why after the introduction, but he is returning to the show after about 5 years. We have Alex the Pug Porteau. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, good. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
Doing pretty good myself.
Yeah. And coming up this summer, we'll be seeing you June 27th at Rhode Island at the Convention Center for the New England Fan Fest and Hall of Fame. And do you enjoy doing these conventions?
Yeah, they're fun. They're a lot of fun. You don't have to take any bumps and, get to meet a lot of fans and talk some old school stuff and just, relax and in and out. It's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. Now, will you be there for the Hall of Fame as well, for the Hall of Fame ceremony?
I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I don't have the agenda yet. I know that I'm on the super ticket, whatever that is, the dinner portion thing. I don't know if it's that night or not.
Yeah.
But if I'm there, I'm sure I'll be there.
Mm-hmm. That I would assume so. Yeah. No, I do want to ask. I don't know if we may have asked you last time, but where did the Pug name? Where did that originate from?
Well, WWF came up with it, in '96 when I signed with them. We took a tour of Titan Towers and had lunch and, met Vince and everybody and did lunch. And we went into the office called Creations. And you basically just kind of give them all the characters you did in all of your career. And I told them Dirty White Boy in Tennessee and the Beach Bully in Dallas, and then just, Alex Porteau over in Japan, several tours, and Puerto Rico. And then the last thing I told him, I said, well, I was an amateur wrestler in high school for 4 years. And believe it or not, they grabbed that, that was the last thing I mentioned. And Bruce Pritchard called me about 2 weeks later and said, look, we're looking at the Pug or the Pit Bull. And of course at the time in Atlanta, Craig Pittman was down there doing that Pit Bull thing. So they called me back and said, hey, we're going to call you the Pug, and you're an amateur wrestler, just came out of college, you don't know a lot about the business, and that's going to be your gimmick. I said, okay.
Were you cool with that gimmick? Did you like the idea?
Yeah, I thought it was great. It's fine. I didn't care for the way they used me that much. I had a lot more ability than what they had me down for, of course. I'd worked 10 hard years in Japan and, did a lot in global, and I had a lot more under my belt, to offer, I thought, than what they, gave me credit for, I think. But, hey, I was on the roster and made some good money and did some international stuff. So overall, I just kept my mouth shut and did what I was told. But the character was good.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Global. Now, I used to watch. It came on right after it was high school for me, and I'd watch it every day. I loved Global, and so many guys came out of there, and it really seemed like it would be like the next big wrestling show at the time. Did you guys expect it to really take off? To become like the next big promotion?
Well, that could have been, I think, but it was in the wrong spot. I think and Dallas was so strong for so many years. But you got to remember that was in the mid-'90s, 92, 93, 94. Mm-hmm. And the Von Erich stuff was real heavy back then with all that went on with all them, and it was just kind of took a sour twist right in there, and just kind of bad timing. I think Global was a great promotion, but I think Texas was kind of run down as far as everything that kind of went down in that area, and Chris Adams, and just kind of a little bit of heat there, I think.
Was that the wrestling, did you watch that wrestling as a kid, watch the Von Erichs?
I did, as a matter of fact. I watched it on Saturday nights, Channel 11 in Louisiana, where I grew up, and that's where I was really kind of inspired by Mid-South more so than anything, but, Mid-South was right there in Shreveport with Bill Watts, and World Class was in Dallas, and, I was a huge huge Michael Hayes Freebirds fan, Mark, and yeah, I was on fire for Texas, man. It was good stuff.
Yeah. Is that where you trained? Because I read that you were trained by a Skandar Akbar.
Well, I was actually trained in Bossier City, Louisiana. One of my best friends in Louisiana, Tuffy Jackson, his dad was a strength coach, and then Coach Rick Howard was my amateur coach in high school, and they kind of got me off the ground athletic-wise, and I started with a little promotion there in Louisiana. None of the guys hardly knew anything. Of course, we thought we did. But then Jim Starr, one of the original mask interns in Bossier, he's got a gym there, Starr's Gym. He was one of the mask interns up in St. Louis in the 70s. He actually had a ring in the back of his gym, and he was getting ready to train another guy. And he said, and I took a tape down to him. He said, "Well, look, you know what you're doing, and you got a lot of good stuff, but you don't know where to. Your psychology is not there. You don't know how to tell a story." And so he goes, "I'm getting ready to train this guy. Would you want to come in and work out in the ring with him?" I said, "Sure." And I jumped on it, and he was kind of an older guy at the time, and he really didn't want to get in the ring much, so I just kind of guinea pigged off of what he was teaching that guy, and it rolled from there. And that was in '87, and Akbar actually gave me my first break. I did a lot of coaching for Akbar down at his school in Dallas once I got over to Dallas in '88. But Akbar did not train me at all, but he was the first guy that gave me my first break.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was he like? We've met him, a few times before he passed away. He was actually going to be on the show, the week before he passed away. And what was he like, as a person?
He was a fantastic guy, man. He really was. I mean, totally different than, what he was in character. Very humble man, strong as a freaking bull. He used to clean and jerk 500 off the floor on the end of a bench and lay back and press it. That's how, strong he was. And, of course, that was a big thing, back in the 60s and 70s, and he worked out at the YMCA in Shreveport, Louisiana with Frank Goodish, which is Bruiser Brody, along with the guy that got me into weightlifting, Richie Jackson, out of Bossier City.
Mm-hmm. So, when you break into wrestling around that period, and a lot of the territories, there's still some around, but a lot of them are starting to go downhill. Was it hard at that period of time to find places to work?
It was just getting a little tough. I mean, I went to Nashville after I did some TV matches in Dallas in '87 and right in the beginning of '88. Jerry Jarrett walked up to me and said, "Hey, you want to be one of the Dirty White Boys in Tennessee?" And that was my first real break with a character. I went up there for a few months and tagged with Tony Anthony. That was fantastic. I learned a ton. And, just kind of wrap that up. I think Global was ending up, they wanted to bring me back down there, so I did some stuff there. And Akbar was actually out in San Juan for Carlos WWC, and he was booking at the time. And that was a great territory. That was in '91. You'd actually work 5 days a week. One day was TV and on a Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday were house shows. So I learned a ton about the business in Puerto Rico, working out there with those guys with all those old school finishes, and being able to consistently work every night. And that island's not real big, so all the towns were very easy. They were all within an hour or two to hit.
Mm-hmm.
But territories were starting to diminish there a little bit. San Juan's probably the only one that's probably really left that you can, actually go out. And I only think they work, run maybe twice a week now. But they're gone now. But they were hitting back then just a little bit, just enough to get the experience I needed.
Yeah. Now, were you a heel or a babyface in Puerto Rico?
I was a heel. Yeah.
So did you have any run-ins with the fans? Because many people talk about, the fans being pretty brutal in Puerto Rico for the heels.
I didn't have any run-ins. I mean, I had a, battle royal one night, and I got hit in the head with a dead gum spark plug. and it was supposed to be wide open, and the refs were trying to roll me out. I'm like, no, I'm in the finish. I can't roll out. I mean, I had color all over me. I got busted in the head with that thing, but I mean, they were brutal out there. I mean, they're big time marks, and business is still real old school out there. Well, it used to be. Now everybody's smartened up.
Yeah.
They try to keep it real heavy kayfabe out there, but I mean, they're tough marks out there.
Yeah. Now, even though it's like dangerous and stuff, for you, was that also fun to be out there with a crowd that's like so rabid like that?
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's a totally different drive. It really is. Because those marks, they're true believers, man. I mean, they get into it hard. When the babyface makes his comeback out there, I mean, the roof comes off.
Mm-hmm. Who are some of the guys that when you were right before you started to break in, like that made you want to become a wrestler?
Well, I used to go down to Irish McNeil's Club in Louisiana, Shreveport, and I kind of met Cornette a little bit on the side there. I was a big Midnight Express fan, and I love the Midnight Express. I like Terry Taylor's work. Several guys came in. Mr. Wrestling 2 was, he was big back then. Magnum TA was great. I mean, just a ton of names right there Mid-South were great hands. But yeah, my guy, really the Midnight Express, I was a huge Bobby Eaton marker. Really always liked Bobby's work. Mm-hmm. Dennis Condrey, those were my guys. I was in 8th grade watching those guys, and of course, and then Dallas, I had a lot of that going on too. I mean, with the Freebirds and Iceman and Al Perez was over there back then, and those guys were all good, solid workers.
Yeah. Even though I'm from the Northeast, when I was a kid, I always preferred the Southern wrestling and watching NWA, and I didn't get to see too much Mid-South where it was, but I always preferred that kind of wrestling. And Midnight Express, definitely my favorite tag team of all time. And I was going to ask you, but then you mentioned Condrey. For me, that was the best incarnation of the Midnight Express. Which do you prefer, the Condrey Eaton or the Condrey Lane, or the Eaton Lane?
I think both of them got over strong. I think Dennis was a little bit older, back then. Whenever he came in, he still could work his butt off. I mean, he was a great, fantastic worker. Mm-hmm. And I think what Stan kind of took it over, just kind of revamped it a little bit and kind of, put a new generation look on it. And I think both of them got over strong. I knew Stan as well. I worked with Stan and Bobby out in Lubbock, Texas, back in probably '89, I think. But matter of fact, that's how long ago it was. Dennis Condrey was there just for a couple of years, I think, maybe 3. But and I know Dennis had gone over to Atlanta for a little bit, but as soon as Stan got in there, I think it kind of gave him a whole new look. I think they got over just as strong, because Stan was a good worker himself.
Oh, definitely. But Eaton also one of the best, not only just a great all-around worker, but also one of the best punches in wrestling.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was Cornette like? Because we're going to have him on next week. Do you have any Jim Cornette stories?
Well, Cornette was, he's probably 25 back then whenever I met him. I mean, he was as good as he is right now. He is the guy that inspired me to really get in the business. I skipped freshman football practice one day and met him. He had driven up from Baton Rouge. He was coming into Shreveport to work that night. And I met him there at McDonald's, and we went and had pizza and hung out together. And I had this time of my life, man. I was like, wow, man, I'm hanging out with Cornette. I'm freaking 16 years old, 17 years old here. And, he's getting ready to do TV with the Midnight Express. I mean, I was like, I was just like pizza and go down to the building together. And I totally, it was like a dream come true to hang out with him, because I was marking out with him for a year, or for him rather, for a year prior to that. I was, I'd meet him out in the parking lot after the TV was over and say hello and just kind of show interest. And he kind of grabbed on that a little bit. He kind of saw that. And he asked me what I was doing in high school. And, he knew I was kind of lifting weights and wrestling amateur. And, but back then, man, I mean, wrestling was totally different. When you brought in somebody, your name was on it. You did not. I mean, if they didn't look like a wrestler or have any kind of, credibility to get in the ring, you totally never even, thought of introducing them to coming into the business or anything. That's how protected the business was back then.
Mm-hmm. From what I understand, in the upcoming Fan Fest, he's also, while he's up here, they're going to film a video series, Corny in New England. I don't think he's huge on the Northeast, so they're going to take him around New England and film it, see what happens.
Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, Cornette's good people. I've always enjoyed being around him. He's been good to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, since it is the New England Fan Fest, what for you? What was the difference between wrestling in the Northeast and wrestling in other parts of the country?
Well, I really don't have an accurate answer for that, I don't think, because I think we ran Providence one time up there and maybe, Philly or Hershey or Boston. I mean, and those are all events. I never really did a whole lot of indies up there. So, Vince's shows are, those are all about the same. So I really, I know the fans are totally different up there than the South, and I really enjoy the fans up there.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you were working for Vince, what was he like? Was he someone you could talk to? Was he like around the other wrestlers?
You didn't see him much. I mean, most of the time he's in the production meetings. We had to be there at noon on TV. And you probably wouldn't see him peek out until about 4:30 or 5. And, all the older guys, I say older guys, the upper guys that were over, they kind of took priority to him. But, yeah, I'd shake his hand and say, hello, how are you? And, just kind of keep moving, I didn't sit there and hover around him. He had things to do. But he's a good dude, just all business.
Yeah. Nope. Back to Texas for a bit was, you mentioned some of the guys like Al Perez and Chris Adams. And were you around those guys at all once you got into wrestling?
Oh, absolutely. I wrestled all those guys. Iceman, Jimmy Jack Funk, Al Perez, Chris Adams, Kevin and Kerry Von Erich, Steve and Sean Simpson. That's where I actually really got my first break. My first TV match ever was, Cowboy Tony Funk. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time with those guys in the locker rooms back there.
Yeah, I always thought Al Perez, definitely one of the most underrated wrestlers. I always thought he's really, just his movements were so smooth in the ring.
One of the best ever, no doubt about that, absolutely. I watched a match with him the other day on YouTube with a Conquistador, and just a fantastic freaking worker Al was.
Mm-hmm. It seems like actually a lot of I don't know if it's because of the network and the two documentaries they put out in the last few years, but a lot of the world-class stuff has kind of been rediscovered by like a new generation of fans.
Okay, yeah, and go ahead, elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, because I see a lot of people that are a lot younger than me. I'm 38, and I saw kind of when I was very young, not really young, but it was kind of the tail end of world-class. But I see a lot of fans that are like a good 10 years younger than me, and they're talking about guys like Al Perez and the Von Erichs and a lot of those guys from that era. And it's just interesting that a new generation of fans are seeing these guys and appreciating, wrestling from, before they were around, pretty much.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, I don't know whether they're really seeing a lot of it at, other than YouTube, I guess, but yeah, Texas was huge, man. They had sellout crowds there in Reunion Arena, Christmas night, Thanksgiving. You had freaking Kerry and Gordy in a cage match. That was just huge out there, and that was just a hot territory, Just a shame, what happened when those guys did, but Gino Hernandez out there, those guys, they ran Texas Stadium. Just a huge market at the time. It was great.
Mm-hmm. That was the guy I actually wanted to bring up with Gino, because that's actually like a lot of fans on the internet have really discovered this guy, and he's like a real favorite amongst a lot of internet wrestling fans.
Right. Yeah, Gino was good. He really was. He was a good hand.
Mm-hmm. What were the Von Erichs themselves like? You hear all different stories.
Kind of antsy, a lot of antsy in the back. They're just kind of always, kind of moving around, and Kerry was always getting pumped up, and, definitely different type of workers, unlike anyone I've ever been around. They just went in there and went 100 miles an hour, and Kevin, David was a little bit more relaxed, of course, and I think I worked with Chris one time. He was, just a kid at the time, but, Kerry was definitely all over the place. Fun to be around. Definitely an inspiration. The guy was big. He took care of himself, in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways he didn't. But, when you're 17 and 18 years old, you're in the locker room with Kerry and Kevin and David Von Erich, and, and a year ago you were watching them on your couch in high school. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, it's no secret that, a lot of those guys from that era were big partiers, and did you ever get into that scene at all?
Not real heavy at all. I had my time, my fun times, of course, but nothing compared to those type things, no.
Mm. What was, just being in the Sportatorium, that's, one of the most famous wrestling arenas, did it have, like, a special atmosphere?
Yeah, whenever Booker T and Stevie Ray come in, and Ahmed Johnson was in there, Justin Bradshaw, Rod Price, Eric Embry, so it was starting to tweak out just a little bit, with the newer guys coming in, so. But yeah, it was definitely a legendary place. No doubt about it. Freaking Elvis performed there in the 50s, or 60s, whatever it was. So, it was definitely a legendary place.
Mm-hmm. So I want to mention this real on Facebook. Santo Del Diego, he says, give him props for being the first wrestler on In Your Head to put over Puerto Rico. So he's Puerto Rican, by the way. So he was happy that you enjoyed Puerto Rico.
Okay, yeah. I can't imagine me being the only one putting that over. That's a fantastic territory out there. Those guys are real good to me, and
yeah.
Speaking of that a little bit, I'll tell you a funny story. I was in Houston, Texas. I'd never been out of the country in my life, and I'm on the phone with Akbar, and Akbar says, I might have a spot out for you, Alex. And I said, well, that's great. I said, listen, what interstate do I take out of Miami to get there? And I was serious as I could be. I thought you just drove on out there. He said, no, son, you got to get on a plane. Anyway, when I went out there, I was out there, probably about a week or two. And, if you don't know how to work, they don't keep you. And I remember walking up to Carlos and said, hey, you guys happy? He said, yeah, man, we want you to stay. And, you know how to work, they're going to hang on to you. And hey, I made, probably $500 to $700 a week out there, when I was, 19, 20 years old. That was, that's decent money for a kid, and, running around the island wrestling, 10-minute matches 5 nights a week. I was in heaven, bro. I lived there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Hitchman, you got a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any Gary Hart stories.
Gary Hart, no, not really. I've spent a lot of time around Gary. He was kind of a, I wasn't really one of his guys. We were very cordial with each other. He kind of hung out with, he did some stuff with Booker and Stevie Ray and a couple other guys over there, but never really did a lot with Gary. Of course, always very cordial and said hello and how are you, but no real stories. But Gift and I, spent a lot of time in the locker rooms together.
Yeah. Let's change it up a little bit. Any Dutch Mantell stories?
Dutch Mantell, not really. Didn't really. Now, I know Dutch very well. He was Bradshaw's manager in Madison Square Garden when we worked there. We did a house show there on a Sunday. And, Dutch and I, we know each other real well. Good people, good worker, fantastic freaking worker, man. Yeah. And a mind for the business. He's been our booker out in Puerto Rico several times. And, I love seeing guys like that getting taken care of that just put so much time in this business all their life. People like that deserve it to be exactly where he's at. Still making money and making a living in the business. So that's just good people.
We had him on the show. I'm pretty sure he was pretty high up on Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Santo's talking about. He's just, I don't know. Santo, pay attention to the show more often. Because I'm sure we had Bushwhacker Butch on the show, and I'm sure he was talking highly of Puerto Rico, too. So, I don't know. But do you still watch wrestling on TV?
I do, sporadically here and there. I don't know none of the guys, to be honest with you, besides the upper guys. I mean, they all look the same. They all work the same. They all got the same entrance. I mean, it's just, and I guess, that's fine. I mean, it's just the way the business is turned, I guess. But I don't know. I really couldn't tell you last time I watched Raw, to be honest with you. I hate to say that. I mean, it's probably been a month or so. I mean, I actually coached down at the wrestling school here in Orlando. I believe in wrestling on Mondays and Wednesday nights, 7 to 10. So that might be a good excuse why I'm not watching Raw. But every once in a while, I do record it. I kind of skim through it, occasionally. I probably got 10 of them to go through right now. I'll probably just end up deleting those and watch another 10 or something. But I don't really mark out that heavy for it now.
Yeah. How would you, if someone listening here would like to, check out I Love Wrestling, how would they find that?
I'm sorry, say again?
If people listening here would like to check out the wrestling place you train at, how would they find that?
Okay, it's IBelieveInWrestling.com. It's sponsored by Larry Zbyszko and Scott Hall.
Oh, nice.
Jason Rance is one of the top guys in there that kind of runs the facility as well. And then, I train down there, guys. I coach on Mondays, and then you got Alberto Del Rio's ring announcer, Jesus Rodriguez Ricardo. He does a lot of lucha stuff down there a couple of nights a week. And then Yoshi Tatsu was coming down for a while before he went over for the New Japan thing and broke his neck. Bless his heart, he's still over there in rehab. But, we got a great mixture there. I got some good old school stuff, and then, Ricardo brings that lucha stuff in there, and then, Yoshi's got some killer Japanese stuff. So we got a great school down there. It's very reasonable. Occasionally a couple of the NXT guys will slip in there, and get a little workout in, while they're, not down at the Performance Center. But great school, and right here by the Orlando airport, and it's a fantastic place, man. Great.
Mm-hmm. Now, Larry Zbyszko, I think he might hold the record for most appearances on the show. It's got to be up there. But one of my favorite people. And did his son train through there?
Yeah, I think he was kind of, he's already kind of in his mid-30s. Great little worker, not bad at all. But no, I think he was kind of trained prior to before he came down here. But, he has, he comes down, kind of, here and there. He's not real consistent, but he's a little working son of a gun. He's not bad.
Yeah. You mentioned Yoshi broke his neck in Japan, and do you have any opinions on that? AJ Styles has hurt several guys over this year with the Styles clash.
Yeah, man, that's something that you can get over just as strong and get something and have a move just as nice as that without doing that. When do you stop? That's why Vince stopped doing stuff like that, and for that very reason. And they don't want children walking that stuff at home, killing their cousins and brothers, and, Yoshi stuck it out, man. Even after he freaking broke his neck, they picked him up, Jarrett, and then put the guitar through his head. It just goes to show you how much respect they have for them. Of course, I don't know how hurt he was at the time. Maybe he didn't realize how bad it was, but what I'm saying is they were on pay-per-view, they were on TV, he carried out the angle, he set it up for the next time, even though he was in the shape he was in. It just goes to show you how much respect the Japanese have for the business.
Yeah. It was, I don't know if you saw the Wrestle Kingdom 9 that they did a few weeks ago with Jim Ross on commentary.
No, I didn't see it. How was it?
I thought it was very good. The only problem for me was I heard so much about it, and I heard so much hype about it, so it was hard to live up to that, because I heard people just going, absolutely crazy for it. I think if I would watch it live, I would have liked it better. But the one thing about it, though, was when AJ comes out, they really talk about how he's broken like people's necks with the finisher, and I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I thought, well, I guess you should. I don't know. What is your feelings about this? Should you take advantage of an unfortunate incident and try to make that move seem more dangerous since it has legit hurt people, or should you not mention that and make it, because it kind of he's kind of benefiting from it in a way.
Who was it that mentioned it?
It was Jim Ross and Matt Stryker.
Okay. Well, a lot of times, here's the thing, man, that doesn't necessarily come from Jim Ross and Matt Stryker. Mm-hmm. That might be somebody in their ear telling them to say that, whoever's running the production back there, Just like whenever, they're doing Raw, Vince is on the mic with those guys, and he's telling Bradshaw and Jerry Lawler and Booker T, hey, throw this in there, you know what I mean? And believe it or not, it's not always coming from those guys, but, I guess. It happened. It's just like Undertaker and Brock, Brock put it on Taker that night, and he was injured, they kind of smirked about it for a few weeks, and, is it a little disrespectful for Taker? Sure it was. But, it happened. It is what it is. They probably, put the kibosh on it by now, I'm sure, but, it was something hot at the moment, and, they probably thought it would draw a little bit of attention. And that's probably all it meant. But, I would definitely get away from that move. That's ridiculous. And look, Yoshi probably tucked his head wrong. It's obvious, but still, that's just not one of those moves you go over before the match, It's just kind of one of those things that you do, and I don't know. There's no place for that. AJ's too good for a worker. He's a fantastic worker, and there should be something, a lot cleaner and he could do to get over just as good.
Yeah. So, when you wrestled in Japan, did you enjoy that experience?
Absolutely, one of my favorite countries ever. Clean, respectful, fantastic workers, solid workers. You learn how to work there. If you go to Japan and lay down on those guys, they're going to eat you up. It's just like back in the days when Terry Gordy and Steve Williams were tagging. You see how snug those guys were, and Stan Hansen. That's just the way the business is over there. It's very, very aggressive. They don't, the fans are totally different. They don't pop on stupid stuff like they do over here in the States. I'm not knocking the States by all means. I'm just explaining the difference. But, Japan's phenomenal. Just totally different business over there. Really is.
Now, you mentioned, Scott Hall's part of, I believe, in wrestling, and I know his son just joined the Bullet Club in Japan, which is like the big faction. What are your opinions on his son, and do you think he's got potential to become a big star in wrestling?
I do. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's a big guy, still a fairly young man. I think he's heading in the right direction. Could he go to NXT right now? I would imagine if you really wanted to. If Scott made the right phone call, he would be there tomorrow. But I think they're just kind of putting some time out there right now, and he's in a good spot. That Japanese dojo over there, any of those dojos are phenomenal. So he's just doing what he's got to do right now. It's not like he's pushing for time. So and I saw Scott, not too long ago, and Scott was mentioning, he said, hey, we're just making this a little bit of a loop. We're going to do some stuff in Japan, and when the time's right, we're going to bring you back to Orlando and stuff him right in. And I think they're right on target.
Yeah. How's Scott Hall doing?
Scott seems to be fine. He's got his demons like everybody else, I think. But he's cleaned up a lot, and he had that surgery, not long ago, and I think he's doing well.
From my understanding, he's going to be on Raw this Monday. Him and Kevin Nash.
Say again?
From what I heard, I believe him and Nash are going to be on Raw this coming Monday.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Do you watch NXT at all?
A little bit. I've been to one of their shows here, believe it or not. I think it's a phenomenal company, man. I mean, Hunter's doing a great job with that thing. Even the women's division, they got some good talent in there, and I'm impressed with it. I really am. I think it's good enough you can put on the road, even outside of Florida more so than anything.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned it, because I was just going to bring that up. They actually just announced that they are doing a tour that's going to be in a few other places. They're testing it out to see how well it does to take NXT.
Right.
And from what I understand, they're kind of thinking about making it its own brand.
And I think that's a great idea. I often wonder why Vince hadn't done that before. I thought many years ago it'd be really cool to have like a legendary territory, because he's got the money to do it. Michael Hayes and Dusty Rhodes and Steve Kern and a lot of those guys. They can't go in there and go 15 or 20 minutes, but they can have a 4, 6, 8 minute match, and still do some stuff. I mean, there's a lot of good legend guys out there. Coco Beware, Tim Horner, Brian Blair, Don Morocco. I mean, you can call some guys up. You get the paychecks rolling. Those guys are getting shape and make some tours. I mean, like I said, they can't go like they used to, but they can still draw money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're fun to see. It's, people
absolutely
like to see the guys that they grew up watching. And someone for yourself, do you think it's also better if you're in the ring with someone? A veteran, do you think you can learn more from them than as opposed to working with somebody that's like basically on your same level?
Yes, I do. I mean, the problem is nowadays is a lot of these younger guys that have never been to a territory, and we got a ton of them down here in Florida. They're like, well, don't tell me nothing. I've been doing this for 5 years, and they don't understand. I was doing arm drags and they were shitting green, And they just, they've never done nothing, but in their eyes, they're the best in the world. You can't tell them nothing, and that's the problem nowadays. Is everybody's a wrestler, and 8 out of 10 of them shouldn't even be in the ring. And I hate to say that. It's just it is what it is, but definitely a lot more with a legend. A legend will go out there and just have a match without going over anything in the back. All these guys. They got 25 high spots in the back, and then they go out there and do it all. It's a big spot fest, and they lose the people. There's no up and down. It's consistent the whole match. It's half the stuff doesn't even make sense anymore. It's ridiculous.
I just you didn't mention about Hunter doing a good job with NXT, and I listen to his press conferences, and I always think it's clear that he really loves NXT. It's like his baby, and he really does have a passion for seeing the guys come up and do well. Were you around him at all when you were in WWE? With
Hunter?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, well, we were. We weren't buddies, but yeah, I mean, I worked with Hunter, and we were in Germany together. We got along real well. I mean, that's back when he was hanging out with China a little bit. We'd go train in the gym together, and yeah, I mean, we him and Justin Incredible were always real tight, and I was always around Justin. We did a lot of tag teaming and stuff, and so we were leaving the hotel one time in Frankfurt, Germany, and Hunter said he left his Kiss CD in there, and I actually grabbed it. I thought it was Justin Incredible's, and he's like, wow, man. I mean, you saved my day. I guess he's a huge Kiss mark, but yeah, I mean, I always got along well with Hunter. He's a good guy. I mean, he's clean. He didn't put up with no bull crap. He didn't have to, because nobody never had anything on him, because he always stayed out of trouble.
Inchman, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, whenever you go out to these fan fests and things, what's one of the strangest things anybody's had you sign?
Well, probably them themselves. They'll
sign my head.
Yeah, or pull their bra over and say, "Here, throw your initials on here or something." And I'm like, "Whoa,"
That was not me, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Yeah, he probably just himself. Which I always thought was strange because the ink's going to come off in, a day or so. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some people get them tattooed then afterwards after they get the autograph.
Okay.
Do you collect any wrestling memorabilia yourself over the years?
I got a lot of old, Pro Wrestling Illustrated books. I've got some stuff from Japan, Rivera Steakhouse jackets, and of course every costume I ever had, is the Dirty White Boys or the Plug or all my Global stuff, the Beach Bully stuff. I mean, not really anything of anyone else's, just all my gears and all my boots and stuff. I've always kept in good shape. So yeah, I got all my stuff.
That's something I would always like to. I would like to have if I'm ever in Japan, is a Rivera Steakhouse jacket.
Right.
Yeah. I already have the Zubaz pants. Just need the Riveras.
Okay. Yeah, that was hot back in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, when I was in high school, and I still wear them. I'll admit. They're very comfortable.
Right.
Yes, but Rivera Steakhouse itself, I know it's cool to have the jacket, but I don't think I've ever asked anybody, what is the steakhouse itself like?
It's great, man. I mean, you get a big old porterhouse over there, you dip a bunch of garlic on it. It's, when you're in Japan, a steak's, half the food over there, I wouldn't say it's not good, but, it's just not, what we're used to, accustomed to eating. So, anytime you get to a steakhouse over there is great, especially when the boys are welcome there, they always go to the back and get you a jacket. They just show so much respect there. But yeah, you sit down and have a good steak there, and throw a ton of garlic on it, and have a few beers. You're ready to roll.
You mentioned the Dirty White Boy a couple times. Was that your favorite character of yours?
I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I really, really enjoyed it, though. It was over. It really was. Tony Anthony was a phenomenal worker, and I learned so much about tag teaming from him. I was the original. I was Lenny Denton and Tony were the original Dirty White Boys, and when Lenny left, I was the first one to replace him. So it was definitely an honor to take that spot, and I rolled right into a top position right there in USWA. We were working with the Southern Rockers every night, Rex King and Steve Dahl, and I was still very, very green back then, but they knew I had determination. They knew my heart was right, and I jumped on it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I really did. USWA, kind of a hard territory. A lot of miles on the, Nashville or Louisville, Evansville, Indiana, Memphis. Those were all 4 hours apart, and we do a house show in Memphis on Friday night. Saturday morning we do TV live, and then Saturday night we would be in Nashville for a house show, and then Sunday we'd be in Louisville. And those are just some serious runs there. A lot of time on the body on the road.
Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people say the payoffs weren't very well and weren't very good in Memphis, but if you were young, you probably weren't paying too much attention to that. But what were they like for yourself?
Yeah, you're right. I was probably getting, $500 a week there, and that's not a lot of money. Come on, by the time you eat, you got your gas expenses. But look, you're not there for the money at that stage of the game. You're there for the experience. You're there to keep your name on the table, and you learn how to work, and that's what I tell all these guys about Puerto Rico. Look, there's not a lot of money out there, but, you get your credit card, you kayfabe it, and act like you don't have any money. You go out there, you learn how to work, and then you get out of there. People pay all kinds of money to become whatever they want to become, but they don't want to pay the dues to learn how to be a pro wrestler, Mm-hmm. And it's not always about the money, unless you got kids and a car and, 2 or 3 cell phones and all this overhead, that's a totally different story. But when you're young and you're trying to achieve something in life and you're looking at the big picture, you got to make some sacrifices. And, guys like me did that. Of course, Steve Austin, he didn't make a ton of money in there. And, there's a lot of guys that came out of Memphis at, USWA. It wasn't a lot of money there. It wasn't about the money. It was an established territory. It was different, strong finishes every night, and that's more than a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Were you around Austin when he was in Texas, when he was starting out with Chris Adams?
Yeah, I was in Texas, already working. I remember we were at Traders Village in Arlington, Texas, in Grand Prairie there. I remember Steve Austin sitting on a 5-gallon bucket at Chris Adams's little gimmick booth there, waiting to talk to Chris about trying to come in and train. And I remember shaking Steve's hand and saying, "Hey, how you doing?" And Steve, just a long-haired guy, worked on a dock out there for Sears or JCPenney's, one of the things. And I was there the day that Steve was waiting to talk to Chris to get in the business. And Steve and I go way back. We were pretty close, and even WWF when he was up there. I mean, he and I did different paths. I was in Japan a lot, in the early '90s and out in Puerto Rico. I don't think he did too much of that, but we kind of regrouped in WWE, back in the late '90s and hung out a little bit. Steve and I, we've always been pretty good friends.
Mm-hmm. What about Chris Adams? What were your thoughts on him?
He was kind of silly, not a bad worker, stiff son of a gun, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, when you learn how to work. I mean, you can just throw it right back at him. But kind of a cocky, arrogant guy, not very humble, know-it-all. But, I think half the guys like that are in this business, especially whenever you have a strong run like those guys did, and I had several matches with Chris. He was a good worker. And, whenever I really learned how to work, we had some good, solid matches. It was different.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you see, some of the people you helped train in, I believe, in wrestling, and, when you start to see them do well and take off, does that make you proud?
Absolutely. We've got a great school here. There's a lot of schools out there that, take people's, money $2,500 down, and they really don't know how to work. They have no idea of psychology, and we've got a great school there. We run shows maybe twice a month out of there. And of course, several indies around here. We'll let the guys out and go do those as long as they're good quality shows. But, we got Santana Garrett down there, which is Brittany out of TNA. She helps out with the women's. Mary Kate Andrea out of Ruskin, Tampa there. She comes in occasionally. She's one of the best freaking workers out there right now. She's only 29, and, she's been in Japan several times, and she's been around several years already, and I think she's ready for NXT. I mean, she's a lot of good hands coming out of there, and, she spent a lot of time in there, and Brittany come out of there, and we're rolling out some talent. We're excited about it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have is your relationship, is it fine with NXT? If you see someone doing good, for you would encourage them to go to NXT?
Absolutely. We do. Unfortunately, we got a great school. A lot of the guys, their hearts are in it, but they don't look like athletes just yet. We got a handful that do, but there's a lot of them that are struggling right now. And I'm like, look, guys, this is serious business. I said, if Vince walked in right now, who would he take out of here? And I tell them that all the time, because they're so hungry for it, and they're there, and they're loyal, and they're learning how to work. But you got to have muscles, you got to have a tan. There's a lot more to it than just learn how to get in there and tell a little story. A lot more to the business nowadays, than back in the day. So. But yeah, I got a good relationship with Terry Taylor over there, and Bill DeMott, and Billy Gunn. I know all those guys, and I don't go over there very often. I probably could, I'm sure, but I just kind of I got a lot of respect for them. I'll let them do their thing, and this school here is right around the corner from the airport here, and I don't live far from there, so I'll just kind of do my thing here, and the relationship's good all the way around.
Mm-hmm. Well, why do you think that is that there are a lot of independent wrestlers that don't they don't even a lot of them don't have proper gear, and they don't necessarily work on their actual look to look like either an athlete or like a tough guy. Why do you think there is that mentality?
I'll tell you why. because people are allowing them to get the business, and their promoters are letting them come in and they're letting them work like that because they're working for nothing. You know, and yeah, they can work a little bit, but they don't look like they look like tow truck drivers or, you know, pizza guys. I mean, they don't look like wrestlers. I mean, it doesn't matter if you can come in there and do a killer crossbody off the top or throw these Ricky Steamboat drop kicks. But, you know, it looks good. It's okay. But if you don't look the part, you know, I mean, you just, I don't know. It's just, it's like, you know, I don't know. I think the problem is the business is not kayfabe like it used to be. I mean, back in the day, you would never, ever, I don't care if the guy had $5,000, you would never bring him around if he had no inclination of being on TV within 6 months or looked like an athlete. I mean, it wasn't about money. Now it's all about money. You know, you got $1,500, you want to be a pro wrestler? Come on in, we're here Monday night, you know? And I mean, and that's just unfortunate. That's the way it is. I know. Now, believe, you know, we're a little bit more, you know, meticulous on who we bring in. You know, we try to kayfabe the business a little bit. We're not, you know, we've got a pretty good crew down there, but half these schools out here and all these Emmys and stuff out there, it's just gotten out of hand, and it's put such a sour taste on the business. I mean, everybody's a wrestler now, you know, so it means nothing to go up and say you're a pro wrestler anymore because everybody's a wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a similar conversation with James Mitchell, Sinister Minister, once, and he said about the most important thing he said, you know, to make in wrestling is you have to stand out and, you know, look like something that people would want to you know, pay to see.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, and I won't mention any names, but some of these NXT guys roll through there. I mean, these guys are jacked up. They're in condition. They got a tan. They got a jug of water in their hand everywhere they go. I mean, they're ready to roll. They're TV ready. I mean, they could be on Monday Night Raw next Monday, you know, and that's the way you have to look if you want to be a pro wrestler. And people just, I don't know, maybe they're just content with where they're at, you know. I mean, they think, you know, I'll never make it up there. I got a better chance to get in the lottery, so I'll just do this. I really think a lot of guys are just content with doing indies, you know, and having a regular job on the side. I don't think they're really inspired to really move up, a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Do you think having just, you know, in the United States, basically, there is this WWE, I guess there's TNA too, but that kind of, that hurts too, that there isn't, you know, more places that guys could go and make like a regular living?
Yes, it does. Absolutely it does. I mean, you know, look at WCW. I mean, that was a great deal, you know. I mean, and that was on fire when I was with Vince in 96 and 97. That's when the NWO was out, and, you know, Macho was down there, and, you know, I mean, that was a great thing, man. I mean, you know, you had different places to go, opportunities, and it's all, you know, simplified down to one now, and it's a whole different ballgame now. Either you're with Vince, or you're in Japan, or it's a hobby. That's the three choices. You're with Vince, in Japan, or it's a hobby. Well, I take that back. You got some guys in TNA that are making strong money, but only a handful. You know, the Dudleys, Kurt Angle, you know.
Not the ones that are already established, you know, names going into TNA. Instead of, you know, instead of someone who's only worked TNA. But, I want to let everybody know that you'll be at New England Fan Fest 5, and that's coming up June 27th, the Rhode Island Convention Center. And all the ticket information is on our website. You can just click on the link, or you can go to newenglandfanfest.com. I'm looking forward to that. It's a really cool lineup too, because there's a lot of guys like Jim Cornette and Magnum TA, a lot of guys, you know, from the 80s, and then there's a lot of people from the 90s, and there's a lot of current wrestlers. So it's like you get a good mix of from like all the different eras of wrestling.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'm excited about it. I mean, it's going to be a good turnout up there, and those guys always put on a great convention. This is actually my first one for them, but I know Justin, he's busted his butt up there, and it's going to be a great turnout, and we're real excited about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, and hopefully we can talk to you again sometime.
Hey, sounds good. Good night, guys. You guys take care, and we'll see you down the road.
Excellent. Thanks.
Hey, yo, say hello to the bad guy, Scott Hall. In Your Head Online Radio.